Hello again, everyone, and welcome to this edition of One-on-One. I'm Martin False, and we've had some interesting people over the years. You won't want to go away, because Mr. Hugh Caffery has a very unique life. He could have taken many roads along the way. He chose the right roads. Now, he'll admit he chose some wrong roads, but then eventually he got back on the right road. So when we come back, we'll hear about his life right here on One-on-One. One-on-One is brought to you by the Law Office of Waits and Downer. In listening to you, your education came outside the schools.
A lot of it.
I know you give a lot of credit to the schools, but you were doing things that, it sounds to me, you were almost trying to find your niche.
Yeah.
So you were trying a little bit of everything, but then your niche finally came. But you're probably well versed in a lot of things.
Well, that's what I love. I don't know what my niche is. I'm still looking for it.
Yeah. Okay.
But I love people, and I love, I didn't as easily talk to people. I was introverted, but I love what people can do, and the education is expanding your awareness of the world, which I consider mine to be really small, but there's so much that goes on all around you that it's great to be enlightened and understand it. Understanding is such a big pleasure, to understand something, not just see it, but understand it better. And that's what I think about education and anything. When I went to trade school to learn to weld, and the trade school to learn as a pipe fitter, I can take and make a cast iron fitting with lead, pour the lead in it. Remember those days when you had cast iron sewer pipe? I could do that.
Right.
You punch the hip, you push the hemp in there first, and then you put lead around it. Just being able to do that gave me great pleasure. Learn to do that.
You bring back my grandfather once I was a blacksmith at Laurel Grove.
Wow.
And then my other grandfather was a mechanic in Thibodeau, but they called him Doc, and I have his certificate in my office where he was a doctor of mechanics.
What?
I didn't know you could get a doctorate in mechanics, but he did.
Yeah.
So, but I'm listening to you talk about your grandfather after you just told your kids that you didn't do well at LSU. Your grandfather's the one that sort of pulled you back in. Did he subtly say, get your act together, or did he forcefully say, it's time you get yourself together?
Not forcefully at all. It was subtle, and very subtle. And it took me years later to realize, after he was gone, how much he loved me and cared about me, because it was so subtle. He had so much that I've learned from him now. We had a few legacy lawsuits from the old days. There was asbestos in the product. Everybody thought it was great stuff then.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've read his memos and his business letters and come to appreciate him, because I never really knew him. He died in 1976. I was 20 years old.
Right.
But just the quality of his mind. He was a World War I veteran, captain in the Washington Artillery, and he had left college to go to World War I. He came back and eventually ran Valentine in 1930. But just my great-grandfather, I call him, but my grandmother's uncle, bought Valentine in 1928. He had built up a big cotton brokerage business from New Orleans, Birmingham, and then to Manhattan. Mm-hmm. But he sold it, Martin. He sold it in 1926 because he saw corruption in the futures market, where the USDA had these Venetian blinds in their office, and if they were open, the price was going to go up, and if they were closed, the price the next day went down. So he said, I can't be in the futures business when the prices are fixed.
Insider trading.
Right. So he got
with
despondent.
Venetian blinds.
Right. Up and down, and the price would respond.
That is incredible.
So he testified in front of Congress, so my mother told me, and they did nothing about it. So he said, well, if I'm trying to sell and I don't know what's happening on the inside. So he sold his business 1927, which was fortuitous because we know what happened in 1929.
Yeah, tough times.
So he came back home to New Orleans, and in the teens, the crop failures in Louisiana were big. So a lot of the farmers had borrowed from the banks. New Orleans, if you remember, this banking, in history is banking center of the South. But a lot of these banks had loans that were failing, so they were failing. So a friend had the Marine Midland Bank and had Valentine for sale because the owner had borrowed and couldn't pay. So he bought Valentine, 1928, with Liberty bonds, by the way, because that's what he sold his business and he traded with, Liberty bonds from World War I. That's how the government financed it. Anyway, so he got in a business he didn't know anything about. I think part of it was my grandfather had married my grandmother, his adopted daughter, the one I told you about that was an inspiration to me. Right. Florida Batson Gibbons, 1922 they married. So I think my uncle thought it would be a good match because my grandfather, his father was a sugarcane engineer, and my grandfather was a sugarcane engineer, so he thought, well, that would be a good business. Let's buy Valentine.
Right.
I think what he told him is, you got to do something innovative. We've been grinding sugarcane, making sugar for 100 years at that point. Let's do something innovative. So he figured out a way to, instead of just making raw sugar in a raw sugar mill, made it refined, called a turbinada, and he got contracts with Tootsie Roll and Kellogg and sold directly to the candy company. You didn't have to get refined sugar. It didn't have to go through that step. Mm-hmm. So that was his first innovation.
Wow, that's incredible. Something I didn't know.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
So when they were selling that to Tootsie Roll and all, it was just a raw cane sugar?
Yeah, and they made it more refined, kind of cleaned it up. And,
Yeah.
Raw sugar's golden color.
Yeah.
Still got molasses in it and some impurities. Well, he put in a process to make it more white, like a light tan color.
I remember sugarcane, of course, my grandparents
Yeah.
involved in sugarcane, and every time we would leave Thibodeau or Raceland, where my dad's parents lived, we'd stop by sugarcane field. I hope it wasn't Valentine. Daddy would get out. He always had a cane knife in his drawer, and he'd cut a stalk and cut little pieces.
Oh, I love that.
For the kids.
Yeah.
And you peel it back. And that was our treat on the way home.
Yeah.
Nothing better.
Nothing.
And that's the good stuff.
It was, yeah. It was soft and chewy. And
that's the kind of stuff that Robert Kennedy wants to put in the food now and not take out.
Right.
It's
It's
so
healthy.
natural.
Yeah.
But when you, there's so much history with Valentine. So for somebody watching who's just tuning in, and for myself, give me a little bit of the history of Valentine and how did it explode on the scene other than what you just told?
Yeah, well, maybe that's to come yet. I'd like it to. But history is, like in the 50s, it was the biggest company in Central Lafourche. But how its history is that Valentine Marie Trish was born on February 14th, 1851. And she married a man named Badeau. And he bought Valentine sometime in the 1870s. And he named the place for his wife, which is common. Ships and plantations were named for ladies, women. So he named it Valentine Plantation. When my grandfather came along in 1930, he renamed it Valentine Sugars. And we had a water tower built in 1930 because you didn't have a lot of wooden buildings that could catch fire. So they built a water tower, 100,000 gallon water tower, and they put a big heart on it and said Valentine, the heart of the cane. That's how it became the name of the company. And when I came along, I renamed Valite as Valentine Chemicals in 1990, but always had the name Valentine because of the place named for this lady who was from Napoleonville originally, and Badeau moved down to Valentine.
Well, I never realized. You see places and you know the names and you see them your whole life, but you never know how they got the name.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Yeah.
But you kept a little derivative of the name.
Yes.
Whenever you'd make a change.
Yes. Always liked the name Valentine because And then I took the Cadillac symbol. You know how it's got the oak leaves on the outside, golden, and then the heart. So I made that symbol, which is to me like the heart is who we are, humanity. But the oak leaves are sustenance, so we work for that. So it kind of goes together that the heart of us needs to be nurtured by the work we do and produce. It's either wheat or oak leaves on the outside.
Yeah, all right. So in the eyes of the beholder.
Yes.
All right, so I saw you walk in with your wife,
Yes.
and if I asked her, I said, man, you seem like he's got a little sentimental side to him. You seem like you like to acknowledge the past in a lot of things.
Yeah.
Or you sort of, some people could care less about the past. They're moving forward.
Yeah.
It seems like you sort of married to the past a little bit.
I am, because I know everything I've got. You know, I was so blessed because of the past, the people that did the work to provide whatever I started with. And I want to know that. Where did they come from? My father said that the Cafferys left Ireland because the English were drawing and quartering them, which means you tie a rope to each hand and each leg, and you get 4 horses and you pull them apart, you know, because they didn't toe the line that the English army wanted to. So I'm talking about that 1700s.
Right.
So the Cafferys left, you know, in fear of their lives, they left and came to the New World, my ancestors. And I think to go from there to where I started, you know, I didn't run away from anywhere to keep from dying. I just started, you know, I was born on third base, but I didn't think I hit a triple.
So you backtracked.
I want to know. How did we go from Ireland to here and everywhere else that I'm mixed background, but I have French Cajun background too. So,
but you got a little bit of everything. Sometimes that works. Sometimes obviously it works pretty good. Yeah. But when I was reading, I always read the press releases that Fletcher sends to me, and because they always are sending out items to me that I go, wow, that'd be a good thing to cover.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be a good thing to cover. And then when I read a little bit of your bio, because you just won a nice award over there, I went, you'd be a good one-on-one. So some things do go unseen in the community. But unless somebody lets you know about them, you never really know. You've sort of had a quiet, entrepreneurial spirit, but not anymore.
No, well, I'm trying to be a little more out there and extroverted and get to know people, and that's why you're such a leader, Martin, because you do that for people. You let the community know about people, and so many, I mean, all of the guests you've had are very, very interesting, and their backgrounds are part of the fabric of the community, and we wouldn't have one without that fabric.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
We interviewed a 103-year-old veteran for Veterans Day.
What?
And you would swear he's about 80. I mean, I was waiting for somebody to come in with a motorized wheelchair and came walking right in.
What?
And it was just, it's unbelievable. So there's so many hidden treasures.
Gems, like diamonds.
In every community, you know.
Yeah.
What made you want to give back? You got a heart for giving back. There's some people who make a lot of money through their lives, and they got every penny they ever made, and a lot of it's buried in the backyard too. And but maybe they haven't learned, or they have just not in their heart. But your money goes around quite a bit. What kicked that off for you?
I don't know. I don't consider it mine. I consider that I'm a steward of it, and where should it be invested? It's, have the best effect. The best place is people who want something more, like you had said a while ago about wanting something more. You find that in people, especially young people who want an education. And that's so rewarding. You see somebody that you can help, it shows appreciation, that inspires them to perform greater, that opens up opportunity they didn't think they had. And that's so fun to see that. I mean, that's a joy that you can't put in words or dollars, but just see somebody that if you helped them and I know you've helped a lot of people and given them an opportunity they didn't have, and they have risen to that occasion. Seeing that, that's right. That's a tremendous joy.
But what's so fun about this show, I'm sitting with a guy that set somebody's hair on fire with his lighter, and now he's giving money to the university. That's full circle.
Maybe it's payment, yeah.
All right, so another good thing I
Yeah.
liked about you when you walked in, your wife was with you. She is sitting right off of the studio here, and I love to see that. Talk a little bit, where'd you meet her? And she's obviously a big part of your life because you walk in the studio with her.
Yeah.
Some people don't come in with their wives. You
Right.
did.
Well, yeah, she's my best friend. She's the main person in my life on earth. And, God's first, but he's not here in the flesh yet. But she is, and so she represents everything I aspire to. I believe in Genesis that man will leave his father and mother and be united with his wife, and she's the one. Well, how did I meet her? Okay, so the best thing I ever did, I thought, as a businessman was I sold our 40-year Valentine business, molding compound, kind of like your cup right here. I used to make products out of it, toaster oven parts, electrical, under the hood. But we got to where we were losing money making it. But we were selling 3.5 million pounds a year, but it was a losing thing. So I got the idea of finding competitors. It was a shrinking industry. So I figured, well, the competitors probably would like to pick up some volume, 3.5 million pounds a year. So I was able to find two of them. You need two, right? To compete against each other. And I sold it in Madison, Wisconsin in October 18th, 1997. I was coming back from there, and I decided we'll have a little fun. It was Sunday. It might have been the 19th. But anyway, it was a Sunday at Tipitina's. They have Cajun dancing from 6 to 9. So I figured I'd go there because there are always young ladies who wanted to learn the Cajun dance, and I could. So just to celebrate, I went there. And lo and behold, who shows up? This beautiful lady and her mother, who I found out later had just been from, she was from Washington State, but she was doing a temporary job in New Orleans. And she and her mother had been on the swamp tour and heard about Tipitina's, came to see the Cajun dance, and we danced.
And you've been dancing ever since.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. This one-on-one program has been brought to you by the law offices of Waits and Downer.